blade grabbed, and the watch had found after that business was going on. This was a worrying thought. This was Rincewind after several months. He used a string or after some particularly resistant hors d'oeuvre as bandages. As the book might put it, a knobbly savage. But he'd kept his store the crown once or twice with fresh bits of robe, and most of the sequins had been replaced with bits of shell stitched on with grass, but it was still his hat, the same old hat. A wizard without a hat was just a sad man with a suspicious taste in clothes. A wizard without a hat wasn't anyone. Although this particular wizard had a hat, he didn't have keen enough eyes to see the drawing appear on a red rock half hidden in the scrub. It started off like a bird, then without any time being other than smears of ochre and charcoal that had been there for years, it began to change shape. He set off towards the distant mountains. They'd been in view for several days. He hadn't the faintest idea if they represented a sensible direction, but at least they were one. The ground shivered underfoot. It had been doing that once or twice a day for a while, and that was another odd thing because this didn't look like volcano country. This was the kind of country where if you watched a large cliff for a few hundred years, you might see a rock drop off, and you'd talk about it for ages. Everything about it said that it had got over all the more energetic geological exercises a long time ago, and was a nice, quiet country which, in other circumstances, a man might be at home in. He became aware after a while that a kangaroo was watching him from the top of a small rock. He'd seen the thing before, bounding away through the bushes. It wasn't as though he was wearing cream. Finally, it sprang out of the bushes and landed in front of him. It brushed one ear with a paw and gave Rincewind a meaningful look. It brushed the other ear with the other paw and wrinkled its nose. Yes, fine, good, said Rincewind. He started to edge away and then stopped. After all, it was just a big, well, rabbit, with a long tail and the kind of meat normally see associated with red-nosed sailor. I'm not frightened of you, he said. Why should I be frightened of you? Well, the kangaroo, I could get your stomach out from your neck. Oh, you couldn't talk. You're a quick one, said the kangaroo. He rubbed an ear again. Something wrong, said Rincewind. No, that's the kangaroo language. I'm trying it out. What, one scratch for yes and one for no, that sort of thing? The kangaroo scratched an ear and then remembered itself. Yep, it said. It wrinkled its nose. And the wrinkling, said Rincewind. Oh, that means come quick, someone's fallen down a deep hole, said the kangaroo. That one gets used a lot. You'd be amazed. And what's kangaroo for? You are needed for a quest of the utmost importance, said Rincewind with guileful innocence. You know, it's funny you should ask that. The sandals barely moved. Rincewind rose from them like a man leaving the starting blocks, and when he landed, his feet were already making running movements in the air. After a while, the kangaroo came alongside and accompanied him in a series of easy bounds. Why are you running away without even listening to what I have to say? I've had a long experience of being me, panted Rincewind. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to be dragged into things that shouldn't concern me, and you're just hallucination caused by rich food on an empty stomach, so don't you try and stop me. Stop you? Said the kangaroo. When you're heading in the right direction? Rincewind tried to slow down, but his method of running was very efficiently based on the idea that stopping was the last thing he'd do. Legs still moving, he ran out over the empty air and plunged into the void. The kangaroo looked down and with a certain amount of satisfaction wrinkled its nose. Arch-Chancellor! Ridcully awoke and sat up. The lecturer in recent rooms was hurrying up, out of breath. The bursar and I went for a walk along the beach, he said, And can you guess where we ended up? In Kidling Street, Quirm, said Ridcully tartly, brushing an exploring beetle off his beard. That little bit by the tea shop with the trees in it. That's astonishing, Arch-Chancellor, because you know, in fact, we didn't. We wound up back here. We're on a tiny island. Were you having a rest? A few moments, cogitating, said Ridcully. Any idea where we are yet, Mr. Stibbons? Ponder looked up from his notebook. I won't be able to work out that precisely until sundown, sir, but I think we're pretty close to the rim. And I think we found where the Professor of Cruel and Unusual Geography has been camping, said the lecturer in recent rooms. He rummaged in a deep pocket. There was a camp and a fireplace, bamboo furniture and whatnot, socks on a washing line. And this. He pulled out the remains of a small notebook. It was standard UU issue. Ridcully would never let anyone have a new one until they'd filled up every page on both sides. It was just lying there, said the lecturer in recent rooms. I'm afraid ants have been eating it. Ridcully flicked it open and read the first page. Some interesting observations on Mono Island, he said. A most singular place. He flicked through the rest of the book. Just a list of plants and fishes, he said. Doesn't look all that special to me, but then I ain't a geography man. Why is he calling it Mono Island? It means one island, said Ponder. Well, you've just told me it is one island, said Ridcully. Anyway, I can see several more out there. Severe lack of imagination, I suggest. He tucked the notebook into his robe. Right then. No sign of the chap himself? Strangely, no. Probably went swimming and was eaten by a pineapple, said Ridcully. How's the librarian doing, Mr. Stibbons? Comfortable, is he? You should know, sir, said Ponder. You've been sitting on him for 3/4 of an hour. Ridcully looked down at the deck chair. It was covered with red fur. This is, yes, sir. I thought perhaps our geography man had brought it with him. Not, with the, black toenails, sir. Ridcully peered further. Oh, should I get up, do you think? Well, he is. I suppose. We must find a cure, Stibbons. This is too strange. Cue, gentlemen! There was activity in front of the window. It centered around a vision in pink, although admittedly the sort of vision associated with the more erratic kind of hallucinogen. In theory, there is no dignified way for a lady of a certain age to climb through a window, but nevertheless, this one was attempting it. In fact, she moved with more than dignity, which is something that is given away free with kings and bishops. What she had was respectability, which is homemade out of cast iron. However, at some point she would have to show a bit of ankle, and she was wedged awkwardly on the sill while trying to prevent this from happening. The senior wrangler coughed. If he had been wearing a tie, he would have straightened it. Ah, said Ridcully, the inestimable Mrs. Whitlow. Someone go and give her a hand. Stibbons. I'll help, said the senior wrangler, just a little faster than he meant. The senior wrangler had once walked past Mrs. Whitlow's rooms when the door was open, and he'd caught sight of the bare, headless, armless dressmaker's dummy that she used to make all her own clothes. He'd had to go lie down quietly after that, and ever since had thought about Mrs. Whitlow in a special way. The university's housekeeper turned and spoke to someone unseen beyond the window and then turned back. Her shouting at subordinates expression briefly visible before it was eclipsed by her much sunnier talking to wizards one. The chair of indefinite studies had once upset the senior wrangler by saying that the housekeeper had a face full of chins. But there was a glossiness about her that put some people in mind of a candle that had been kept in the warm for too long. There wasn't anything approaching a straight line anywhere on Mrs. Whitlow until she found that something hadn't been dusted properly when you could use her lips as a ruler. Most of the faculty walked in dread of her. She had strange powers they couldn't quite get a grip on, like the ability to get the beds made and the windows washed. A wizard who could wield a staff crackling with power against dreadful monsters from some ghastly region, was nevertheless quite capable of picking up a feather duster by the wrong end and seriously injuring himself with it. At Mrs. Whitlow's whim, people's clothes got washed and socks got darned. Wizards lack the HW chromosome in their genes. Feminist researchers have isolated this as one which allows people to see the washing up in sinks before the life forms growing there have actually invented the wheel or discovered Slood. If anyone annoyed her, they found their study spring-cleaned more often than was good for them. And since to a wizard his room is as personal an item as his trouser pocket, this was a terrible vengeance. "I just thought you gentlemen would like a morning snack," she said, as the wizards helped her down. "So I took the liberty of getting the girls to put together a cold collation. I'll just go and fetch it." The Arch-Chancellor stood up hastily. "Well done, Mrs. Whitlow." A morning snack," said the senior wrangler. "Looks like mid-afternoon to me." His tone made it clear that if Mrs. Whitlow wanted it to be the morning, he wasn't going to cause any trouble. "Speed of light crossing the disk," said Ponder. "We are close to the rim, I'm sure. I'm trying to remember how you tell the time by looking at the sun." "I should leave it for a while," said the senior wrangler, squinting under his hand. "It's too bright to see the numbers at the moment." Ridcully nodded happily. "I'm sure we could all do with a snack," he said. "Something suitable for the beach, perhaps." "Cold pork and mustard," said the Dean, waking up. "Possibly some beer," said the senior wrangler. "And have we got any of those pies? You know, the ones with the egg inside them," said the lecturer in recent rooms. "Although I must say I've always thought that it was rather cruel to the chicken." There was a soft little sound, very similar to the one you get aged around 7 when you stick your finger in your mouth and flick it out again quickly and think it's incredibly funny. Ponder turned his head, dreading the sight he was about to see. Mrs. Whitlow had a tray of cutlery in one hand and was prodding ineffectually at the air with the stick she held in the other. "I only moved it to get things through," she said. "No, I can't seem to quite find where the silly thing is supposed to go." Where there had been a dark rectangle opening into the geographer's dingy study, there was now only waving palms and sunlit sand. Strictly speaking, it could be said to be an improvement. It depended on your point of view. Rincewind surfaced, gasping for breath. He'd fallen into a waterhole. It was it looked as though once there had been a cave, and the roof had collapsed. There was a big circle of blue right above him. Rocks had fallen down here, and sand had blown in, and seeds had taken root. Cool, damp and green, the place was a little oasis tucked away from the sun and the wind. He pulled himself out of the water and looked around while he drained off. Vines had grown among the rocks. A few small trees had managed to take root in the crack. There was even a little bit of beach. And there, wasn't that just typical? You got some quiet little beauty spot miles from anywhere, and there was always some graffiti artist ready to spoil it. It was like that time when he was hiding out in the Moorpork Mountains, and right in the back of one of the deepest caves, some vandal had drawn loads of stupid bulls and antelopes. Rincewind had been so disgusted he'd wiped them off, and they'd left lots of old bones and junk lying around. Some people had no idea how to behave. Here, they'd covered the rock walls with drawings in white, red, and black. Animals again, Rincewind noticed. They didn't even look particularly realistic. He stopped, water dripping off him in front of one. Someone had probably wanted to draw a kangaroo. There were the ears and the tail and the clown feet, but they looked alien, and there were so many lines and cross-hatchings that the figure seemed odd. It looked as though the artist hadn't just wanted to draw a kangaroo from the outside, but had wanted to show the inside as well. And then had wanted to show the kangaroo last year and today and next week, and also what it was thinking, all at the same time, and had set out to do the whole thing with some ochre and a stick of charcoal. It seemed to move in his head. He blinked, but it still hurt. His eyes seemed to want to wander off in different directions. Rincewind hurried further along the cave, ignoring the rest of the paintings. The piled rubble of the collapsed ceiling reached nearly to the surface, but there was space on the other side going on into the darkness. It looked as though he was in a piece of tunnel that had collapsed. "You walked right past it," said the kangaroo. He turned. It was standing on the little beach. "I didn't see you get down here," said Rincewind. "How'd you get down here?" "Come on. I've got to show you something. You can call me Scrappy if you like." "Why?" "We're mates, ain't we? I'm here to help you." "Oh, dear." "Can't make it alone across this land, mate. How do you think you've survived so far? Water's bloody hard to find out there these days." "No, I don't know. I just kept falling into... Rincewind stopped. "Yeah," said the kangaroo. "Strike you as odd, does it?" "I thought I was just naturally lucky," said Rincewind. He thought about what he'd just said. I must have been crazy. There weren't even flies down here. There was the occasional faint ripple on the water, but that wasn't comforting since there wasn't apparently anything to stir the surface. Up above, the sun was torching the ground and the flies swarmed like, well, flies. "Why isn't there anyone else here?" he said. "Come and see," said the kangaroo. Rincewind raised his hands and backed away. "Are we talking teeth and stings and fangs?" "Just look at that painting there, mate." "What? The one of the kangaroo?" "Which one's that, mate?" Rincewind looked along the wall. The kangaroo picture wasn't where he remembered it. "I could have sworn..." "That's the one I want you to look at over there." Rincewind looked at the stone. What it showed, outlined in red ochre, were dozens of hands. He sighed. "Oh, right," he said wearily. "I see the problem. Exactly the same thing happens to me." "What are you talking about, mister?" "It's just the same with me when I try to take snaps with an iconograph," said Rincewind. "You set up a nice picture, the demon paints away, and when you look at it, whoops, you had your thumb in the way. I must have got a dozen pictures of my thumb. Now I can see your lad there doing his painting in a bit of a hurry, got his brush all ready, and then splosh. He'd forgotten to take his hand off the..." "No, it's the painting underneath I'm talking about, mister." Rincewind looked closer. There were fainter lines there, which you'd think were just flaws in the rock if you weren't looking. Rincewind squinted. Other lines seemed to fit. Yes, someone had painted figures. They were... He blew away some sand. Yes, they were curiously familiar. "Yes," said Scrappy, his voice apparently coming from a distance. "Look a bit like you, don't they?" "But they're..." he began. He straightened up. "How long have these paintings been here?" "Well, let's see," said the kangaroo. "Out of the sun and the weather, nothing to disturb them. 20,000 years?" "That's not right." "Nah, true. Probably 30,000 in a nice sheltered spot like this." "But these are... that's my..." "Of course, when I say 30,000 years," said the kangaroo, "I mean it depends how you look at it. Even them hand paintings on the top there have been 5,000 years, see? And those faint ones, oh yeah, got to be pretty old, tens of thousands of years, except...
Except what?
They weren't here last week, mate."
"You're saying they've been here for ages, but not for very long."
"See? I knew you was clever."
"And now you're going to tell me what the hell you're talking about?"
"Right."
Excuse me. I'll just find something to eat."
Rincewind lifted up a rock. There were a couple of jam sandwiches underneath. The wizards were civilized men of considerable education and culture. When faced with being inadvertently marooned on a desert island, they understood immediately that the first thing to do was place the blame. "It really was very clear," shouted Ridcully, waving his hand frantically in the air at the place where the window had been. "And I put a sign on it." "Yes, but you've got a do not disturb sign nailed to your study door," said the senior wrangler. "And you still expect Mrs. Whitlow to bring you your tea in the mornings." "Gentlemen, please," said Ponder Stibbons. "We've got to sort some things out right certainly better to be stuck out here in the fresh air and sunshine than in that stuffy study, Ridcully went on. That's quite a broad view, sir, said Ponder doubtfully. And we'll be back home in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, said Ridcully, beaming. Unfortunately, this doesn't look a very agricultural sort of... Ponder began. Figure of speech, Mr. Tibbins, figure of speech. The sun's going down, sir, Ponder persisted, which means it'll be night time soon. Ridcully looked nervously at Mrs. Whitlow, and then at the sun. Is there a problem? Said Mrs. Whitlow. Oh, good heavens, no, said Ridcully hastily. I noticed the little hole in the wall doesn't seem to have come back, said Mrs. Whitlow. It's a little prank, is it? The housekeeper went on. I'm sure you gentlemen will have your fun and no mistake. Yes, but I should be grateful if you would send me back now, Arch-Chancellor. We're doing the laundry this afternoon, and I'm afraid we're having a lot of trouble with the Dean's sheets. The Dean suddenly knew how a mosquito feels in the beam of a searchlight. We'll sort this out directly. Never fear, Mrs. Whitlow, said Ridcully, not taking his eyes off the wretched Dean. In the meantime, why don't you take a seat and enjoy the rather wonderful sheets? I mean, sunshine. There was a clack as the deck chair folded itself up. Then it sneezed. Back with us again, librarian, Ridcully went on, as the orangutan sprawled in the sand. Help him up, please, Mr. Stibbins. A word to the rest of you, please, if you'll excuse us a moment. Mrs. Whitlow, faculty meeting. The wizards went into a huddle. It was tomato sauce, all right, said the Dean hurriedly. I just happened to be having a snack in bed, and you know how that stuff stains. I'm sure we're not at all interested in the state of your sheets, Dean, said Ridcully. No, indeed, said the senior wrangler brightly. Not us, said the lecturer in recent rooms, slapping the Dean on the back. We have to get back, said Ridcully. We can't spend the night alone with Mrs. Whitlow. It wouldn't be decent. I don't see why anyone should make a fuss about a bit of tomato sauce. I at least cleaned all the beans off. Well, we're not actually alone, are we? Not as such, said the lecturer in recent rooms. I mean, there's 7 of us, not including the librarian. Yes, but we're all alone together, said Ridcully urgently. There could be talk. What about? Said the chair of indefinite studies, who sometimes lagged behind. You know, said the lecturer in recent rooms. 7 men and 1. Well, it doesn't bear thinking about. Well, I, for one, will certainly veto any suggestion about ordering another 6 women, said the chair firmly. Perhaps the hole will open again, said the senior wrangler. I doubt it, said Ridcully. Ponder says that our coming through probably altered the thermostatic balance. What do you think, Dean? Just tomato sauce, said the Dean. It could have happened to anyone. I meant about our being marooned on this island, said Ridcully. Any ideas, anyone? We must tackle this as a team. What shall we tell Mrs. Whitlow? Whispered the senior wrangler. She thinks this is a prank. Senior wrangler, we are elderly, wise, and experienced wizards, said Ridcully. Students of pranksters. Possibly, mumbled Ponder Stibbins. Whatever. We do not indulge in pranks. With us, it's a fully fledged, gold-embossed cock-up, or nothing, said the lecturer in recent rooms. I don't see why people are making such a fuss about a bit of tomato sauce that hardly even shows up, muttered the Dean. No one brought any beautiful smell, said Ridcully. At 4 in the morning, for the beach, said the lecturer in recent rooms. Of course not. Then we shall have to fall back on our own resources. There's bound to be a ship along sooner or later. The point is, gentlemen, he added, that we are the product of a a university education. I'm quite sure primitive people have no difficulty thriving in a place like this. And I think all the things we have that our rude forefathers lacked.
Mrs. Whitlow, for a start,
Said the chair of indefinite studies. She wouldn't put up with rude little Annie Soul. Senior Wrangler agreed. I believe you got a brown for rowing when you were slimmer, said Redcutter. Please note that this was not rest of sheets in any way. Well, indeed, boat building is not a difficult task. See, Cersei, even primitive people can build boats, and we are civilized men, after all. Then you're head of the boat building committee, said Redcully. Senior Wrangler can help you. The rest of you fellows had better see if there's any fresh water. And food. Knock down a few coconuts. That sort of thing. And what will you do, Arch-Chancellor? Said the Senior Wrangler nastily. I shall be the Protein Acquisition Committee, said Redcully, waving his fishing rod. You going to stand there and fish again? What good's that going to do? It might result in this dinner, Senior Wrangler. Has anyone got any tobacco? I'm dying for a smoke. The wizards went off about their task, complaining and blessing one another. And just inside the forest of the debris, groups unfolded and a number of very small plants began to grow like hell. This is the last continent, said Scrappy. It was put together last and differently. Looks pretty old to me, said Rincewind. Those hills look hills. They were made 30,000 years old, said the kangaroo. Well, they look millions of years old. Yep. 30,000 years ago, they were made a million years ago. Time here is, the kangaroo shrugged, not the same. It was glued together differently, right? Search me, said Rincewind. I'm a man sitting here listening to a kangaroo. I'm not arguing. I'm trying to find words you might understand, said the kangaroo reproachfully. Good, keep going, you'll get there. Want a jam sandwich? It's gooseberry. Nah, strictly herbivore, mate. Listen, unusual gooseberry jam. I mean, you don't often see it. Raspberry and strawberry, yes, even blackcurrant. I shouldn't think more than one jar of jam in 100 is gooseberry. Sorry, do go on. You're taking this seriously, are you? Am I smiling? Have you ever noticed how time goes slower in big spaces? The sandwich stopped halfway to Rincewind's mouth. Actually, that is true, but it only seems slower. So, when this place was made, there wasn't much space and time left over to work with, see? He had to bunch them together to make them work harder. Time happens to space. You know, I think there could be a plum in it too, said Rincewind, his mouth full.
Noise! Fun! Yeah!
coming out the gold core. Years ago.
Run!
Care a little bit.
Oh my god, such your life, Auntie!
I am, shut up.
You fucking sit in your tower. You fucking cock ass. Shit on everything that I create. Fuck you, you fucking dick.
That come on like 3 times today as well. I've got to delete those skits because they're starting to do me in a bit.
Oh yeah.
And the other one, he's like, you have to pick tits or Destiny. We just go tits.
It's alright when you actually listen to
To the album, yeah, but when it's in the middle of like a load of other stuff. It's quite funny because my ringtones are in there as well, so between a heavy song it'll like end and it'll go on, that's the way the news goes. And the Dennis one's in there, it's even got a bit of Dayman, so it'll be like, ah, fighter of the night man, and then go straight back into the next song.
You can have to sing for your bro.
Yeah, I can do.
Yeah, crack the fuck on.
I do with sitting back actually a little bit.
Oh, that's nice. It's alright.
It does feel like you want to go like that. Fuck.
Yeah, that's why it's always close to the bed.
Quite good you got it the right way around, isn't it?
Just in case you fall off.
And apparently they're really good for helping you sleep and stuff. Is it actually started?
Yeah, oh yeah, look it.
Yeah,
I
think when they in Rockstar was it?
I'm not sure they do. I only got it so I don't have to have that light on. I can have 2 lamps on.
Apparently they're really good for if you have allergies.
They absorb moisture. That's all they're really good for.
Yeah.
Salt.
Yeah. Maybe I need one of them in that room that I'm staying in to stop it from getting so mouldy and like damp down there. I didn't know that's what they did. I thought
I didn't
they're
realise.
really good for allergies and they're good for like.
I didn't realise until I went to France. Like someone had a little one and had just underneath it, and every like week they emptied it.
It was like colour, like draws it towards it. Yeah. Fucking mad. Why is the sea so wet then?
Why is the what?
Why is the ocean so wet?
Oh, I thought you said the seat.
Yeah, the sea.
No, the seat.
Not
I
the seat.
I was about to say.
While still sitting in it, why is the seat so wet?
Yeah.
I haven't jumped up yet. I don't know why that is. No, wait. I'm enjoying it. And there we go. I think little Lizzie thought I was chatting her up now, yeah, because she's quite quick to tell me she's got a boyfriend. It's so cringy when they do that. Oh yeah, oh my god, boyfriend, I don't give a fuck. I'm just talking to you, like, stop thinking that I'm coming on to you just because I may be semi-attractive and I'm talking in your direction.
Just because I'm talking to
doesn't
you.
mean I want to stick my dick in you, you know what I mean?
I do, but
I actually got no interest in
shut up.
to be quite honest.
I do.
You've got no interest in sex for a long time, mate. Yeah. I might as well just be fucking asexual, you know.
I was fucking screwed because I lost my lighter. I was like, oh, I bought it. No, not long ago. Good idea. I thought I lost it. I was like, oh, I'm happy to fucking stop.
Bring your bluey round mine and like re-split it and regas it.
Yeah.
Because you bought those things, didn't you? I've got 2 left, mate. So I can re-split it for you. Well, I'll bring the flint here, but I doubt I don't. So, well, I'm looking forward to getting a good payday on 20th, mate. It's been a long time since I've looked forward to getting paid good money. And as I sent them my hours yesterday, I included the day that I was doing, and it added up to like 500 and something. So I've already earned 500 quid since I started there, which is pretty fucking sound, isn't it? And it's happened quite quickly as well. That was what I was going to get on the 20th. I'd give 400 to my dad and I'd keep the other 146. That's kind of the idea I want to get. Is if I had like 800 quid, I'll probably give him like 600 quid. And then I'll keep the other 2. Each time I'm like struggling. Like, Dan, lend us 20 quid and you can't really say no. it's good.
That's alright, bro.
It's weird, really, because it's like